man is making plays in spring practice. Luke Nikel struggling in spring practice. And Miami has a huge recruiting weekend coming up. What's up, guys? Welcome to NMD TV. Canes all day. If you're rocking with you, then you know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button so you never miss out on a video. And big shout out to the Kane Gang, those who are part of our YouTube membership. I appreciate you guys going above and beyond to help support the channel. But today we got a couple topics that I want to talk about. Let's dive right into them. Now, the first topic I want to talk about is, did you know that Jackson Carver is injured? Yeah, I was listening to the Through the Smoke podcast, and we're definitely going to talk about the Through the Smoke podcast later on in this video. Big shout out to those guys because David, Lake, Gabby, they do a great job. They're on YouTube. They're on podcast. They do a wonderful job covering Miami. But Gabby said that Jackson Carver has a torn ACL, and I did not know that, but I've been wondering, why haven't we heard much about him when it comes to the reports? Now, I was thinking, you got Elijah Lofton, you got Bauman, maybe that's why. But no, he said that Jackson Carver was walking around pro day with some type of medical device, and it's a torn ACL, which means he's going to be out all of spring and most likely fall. Now, Jackson Carver, 6'6", redshirt freshman, he was a guy that I was excited about, that during the workouts, people were saying that he really has worked on his body, transformed his body. And I was wondering, we lost Elijah Arroyo to the draft. Riley Williams goes to Oregon State. We get Bauman through the transfer portal. We get Nikel. What young tight end would we see any of them flash? Would anybody be talking about him? And I was wondering specifically about Jackson Carver, and I found out via the Through the Smoke podcast that he has a torn ACL. I wish him a speedy recovery. I hope he gets better. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. Next thing I want to talk about is Joshua Moore. Round of applause for Joshua Moore, because every clip I see that the Miami Hurricanes are releasing is Josh Moore making plays. And we see him in the drills and things like that. He looks big. He's moving good. But when they release the highlights, I'm saying, damn, here go three. Damn, here go three. Matter of fact, me and you, we're going to go look at some of these spring practices and see what he's been doing. Now, this is the first clip that they released. I do not know who number 49 is, but son, you just got mossed. Y'all remember that? You got mossed. Yes, 49. You got to go. You're grabbing them. You're holding them. Ugh. That is nasty right there. True freshman. That's just disgusting right there. And so that was a nice clip. And look at my boy right there, like, damn, he just did that. Yes, that's true freshman right there, okay? Now, this is the next clip where I'm just going to let it run, and then we'll go back. But you're going to see Josh Moore throughout this making plays. And I'm like, hey, I'm happy we got this man to flip from Florida to Miami, because so far all I've seen, all I've heard is good thing. Now, the thing that I've noticed about the beat reporters is when a player is doing good, they're going to let us know. And I've seen when people talk about the players that have been making plays, them talk about Josh Moore. They've been bringing up Josh Moore, which lets you know he's doing good. If they don't talk about a player, something could be up. But here's the first play. You see 3 beating somebody, don't know who it is, but bam, right there. Okay. Come on now. That is nice. That is nice. Now, remember, guys, Miami is trying to figure out what its wide receiver rotation is going to be like. Will they get a transfer portal wide receiver in a winter? And also, what will CJ look like when he gets back from injury? But I think this is also Josh Moore, again, catching the ball with his hands and going. That just making play after play. And look, I'm not in practice, so all I can do is judge off these clips. And most of the time, I don't overreact to these clips. But when I see a player constantly showing up, I get excited, especially when it's a true freshman like Josh Moore. Now, my question to you, I know it's early, but do you think Josh Moore can make his way into the rotation? Because right now, I believe there is playing time at wide receiver that's up for grabs, and I'm wondering who's going to get it. And when I look at what the reports are saying, plus these highlights and stuff, all I see is Josh Moore making plays. I hope he continues that, and we'll know more after the first scrimmage. Now, the next story goes into kind of what I just said. If a freshman is making plays, you're going to hear their name a lot, right? Like, guys, we've heard Hayden Lowe a lot. We've heard Malachi Tony. We've heard Josh Moore. But I was wondering, why haven't I heard a lot about Luke Nikel? And I think it's because he hasn't had a great spring. And I just want y'all to listen to what David Lake has to say from Through the Smoke podcast about Luke Nikel. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this because I can already hear the comments. David Lake's, whatever he says, it's not the gospel. It does not mean Luke Nikel cannot improve. It does not mean Luke Nikel cannot work on his game and get better. But he was just talking about his observation, and I thought it was interesting.
It's still a work in progress.
Coming into spring, right, and I think this was a fair discussion to have, like, can Luke Nikel legitimately push for the backup job this year?
Yeah.
Just from what we've seen, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to take time, which is probably the fair expectation to have for most early enrollee freshmen. He is, the speed of the game is happening very fast from a processing standpoint. And I think that is leading to some accuracy issues as well. So it's just going to take time, right? I think it's pretty clear. As long as the recovery goes well, Carson Beck's your starter, Emory Williams is your backup, and that's a solid 1-2 punch, right? You want to have a competent backup, and I think they have that in Emory. Now, do you want him to be your full-time starter? Personally, I'm not comfortable with that, but overall, I think you feel good about the 1-2 guys they have, and then they have developmental guys now. Look, this is hot takey. And honestly, this is probably unfair to Luke. Personally, just from what I see, I don't know if there is a future starter at Miami playing right now this spring. Again, that's probably unfair to Luke because he's very young. You got to give him time to settle in at the college level. That's just my snapshot take at this point in the spring. Could end up being woefully wrong a year from now as Luke Nikel settles in to the college level. Anything else to add to the quarterback?
Now, when I heard that, I said, damn. Because people had high hopes for Luke Nikel. Hell, I still have high hopes for Luke Nikel because, yes, he can improve. Yes, he can get better. And one of the positives of no Carson Beck was Luke Nikel and Emory, they get more reps. But to hear David Lake speaking like that, I'm like, damn, what is he really doing in practice? Like, what is Luke Nikel really doing in practice? And was I surprised to hear that a true freshman, early enrollee quarterback struggled his first couple days at spring practice? No, that does not surprise me at all. Matter of fact, I mean, that's the norm. But when you go as far as to say, I don't see a starting quarterback on this roster in the future, that's when I perk up. That's when I say, Sugar Shaggy. Because Luke Nikel was supposed to be the guy that hands it off to Darian Coleman. And if Luke Nikel does not pan out to be a starting quarterback, then you got to look at the coaching staff and say, what are we doing with the quarterback recruiting? Right? So me hearing this one clip from the Through the Smoke podcast, David Lake, Gabby Arrudia, shout out to those guys, got my head going in several different directions because I'm saying if, let's say what David Lake is saying is true. Let's say Luke Nikel doesn't start a game for Miami. Then you got to start looking at, okay, Judd, Emory, Luke, None of those quarterbacks panned out. What are we doing? Where are we messing up in the quarterback recruiting? Now, transfer quarterbacks, you got your Cam Ward, you got your Carson Beck. Kudos to that. But if Luke Nikel doesn't pan out, doesn't start to improve, I'm definitely going to be looking at the coaching staff like, are we making the right evaluations at the quarterback position? That's just where my mind went. But I would love to know, what do you guys think about this? Do you think it's always he's just a true freshman, give him time? Do you say, well, look, I never looked at Luke Nikel as a future starter anyway? What are your thoughts on what David Lake had to say? I'd love to know. Leave them in the comments, okay? And the last and final thing that I wanted to talk about is telling you something that you probably already know. This is a huge weekend for Miami Hurricane football. This is a huge weekend for Miami Hurricane recruiting, and I really hope Miami can knock it out of the park. They're going to be having people from all over, prospects from all over, touchdown in Coral Gables. Hell, at the time of me recording and editing this video, some of them may be there, right? They're going to get to go to the facilities. There's going to be a pool party. They're going to get to see a lot, and Miami will be putting it on. You're going to get Mario Cristobal's best. We're going to have guys like Jordan Campbell. There's rumors Chris Henry Jr., Kenye Pepe. Everybody's talking about him. And a lot others. And normally when there is a big event like this, you may have some secret visits, you know. I don't know. That's not me. I'm just saying that could be possible. So this is a huge weekend. I don't know if there's going to be any commitments come after this. I don't know if anything like that, but I do believe that there's going to be a lot of recruiting news coming from this weekend. I'm excited to see how it goes, and hopefully Mario Cristobal, the recruiting staff, the coaches, they knock it out the park, because there are some dogs that's going to be at this event. So what do you think about the topics that we touched on today, guys? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm out. Peace.